Hello, and thanks for tuning in to Town Meeting Television's coverage of Town Meeting Day 2026. My name is Elaine Haney. This program is part of a series of candidate forums hosted by Town Meeting TV in advance of the Town Meeting Day election on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. These forums are made possible by Town Meeting TV's generous underwriting partners. You can find all our forums at cctv.org/TMD2026 or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel, where auto-generated captions are available. If you're tuning in on YouTube, click the subscribe button to stay subscribed to local democracy in this election season. On tonight's program, we will hear from 4 candidates running for Burlington City Council. These candidates are Becca Brown McKnight, Democrat of Ward 6 and an incumbent.
Hello.
Laura Sanchez Parkinson, a progressive running for Ward 3. Sarah Carpenter, a Democrat incumbent from Ward 4. And City Council President Ben Travers, a Democrat from Ward 5. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have prepared a list of questions for each of you, and you will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Rebuttals will only be allowed if a candidate is named directly, so in which case the candidate will have 30 seconds to respond. If you are tuning in live, we also welcome your questions at 802-862-3966. If you call in, we'll do our best to prioritize your question, though we will screen calls to ensure questions are not repeated. We ask that you share your name, the town you live in, and that your question be directed to all the candidates, not just one candidate in particular. You can also submit questions for future forums online at cctv.org/TMD2026. So let's get started with 1-minute opening statements. And our statements are couched in a question. What do you love about Burlington, and why do you want to serve as a city councilor? And we will start with Becca Brown McKnight.
Great. Thank you so much, Elaine, and thank you to Town Meeting TV for having me here tonight. I am Becca Brown McKnight. I'm the councilor for Ward 6. And 2 years ago, I decided to run for council because I love Burlington. And I could talk for the entire time that we're here tonight about all the reasons why I love Burlington, but mostly it's because of the people that live here and every single resident that makes this city so special. So 2 years ago, I decided to step up and run because in the city that I love so much, I could really see a lot of struggles. You know, public safety was in decline, housing felt out of reach and still does, and there was just a general sense that things really weren't working as they should be, and I wanted to help fix that. Since joining the council, I have tried to be a steady, practical voice that is really focused on results. I'm always willing to ask questions, even when they're difficult, uncomfortable questions. I'm ready to show up and do the hard work, and because government should make your life easier, not harder. And that's the work that's still ahead, and that's why I'm running again. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Sanchez Parkinson.
Thank you so much for inviting us out here and for moderating today. I am Laura Sanchez Parkinson. I am running for City Council in Ward 3, where I'm raising my family. My partner and I are raising our family in the Old North End, just a beautiful community. I love Burlington because it is just not just a beautiful city, but also its community, its neighbors, which is one of the reasons why we are raising our family here. But I'm running for City Council not only because Burlington is a beautiful city, but because I want to represent the people in our community. I want to represent our struggles, our challenges, and I also want to represent our dreams and our vision for the future. And so I want to be part of the community that makes the decisions for our city and to represent our community, our diverse community, in the many ways that we have here in our city. I want to work in City Council specifically to think about not only the multi-generational wealth that we have, but also to bring in new perspectives and ideas to the council.
Thank you. Sarah Carpenter, what do you love about Burlington, and why do you want to serve again as a city councilor?
Well, I am a lifelong Burlingtonian. I couldn't get myself out even after an opportunity to be in Boston, and I've been back here professionally for many, many years. I ran Cathedral Square Housing and Vermont Housing Finance Agency, And when I retired from them, I thought, well, maybe there's something I can offer the city that I love. And I embarked on the city council, which I need to say is probably the hardest job I've ever had. Burlington is a big machine to run. It's a big organization, and we need to do that affordably and efficiently. And I hope that I can bring some of those skills, have brought some of those skills to the council as we make policy decisions, and we make a lot of practical decisions that really need examining. And I try to do that very reasonably and thoughtfully. Try to bring together my colleagues so that we can really do the things that are right for the city to make it a good place to live.
Thank you. Ben Travers, same question.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine, and thanks to Town Meeting TV for hosting this forum. Town Meeting TV is a really essential partner in the work that we do on the council, and it's really great to be here live and in the studio. I'm really looking forward as well to serving again with my colleagues Becca McKnight and Sarah Carpenter. I had a chance to serve with them over our last term here, and I'm thrilled to be here at the table with them. And Laura, had the opportunity to meet you this evening, and I'm very much looking forward to our being able to work together. You know, Burlington, certainly this is not a universal truth of everyone who lives here, but more than any community I've ever lived in, Burlington is a community of choice. People are here because they want to be in Burlington, and as a result, they lean into this community. They're invested in making it a better community for themselves and for their family. And it's a real privilege to serve in a community like that, and it's been particularly a privilege to serve the council as its council president the last couple of years. I'm looking forward to the discussion this evening and to continue to talk about how we can serve those who are so invested in a better Burlington.
Thank you, all of you. So now we're going to switch to questions, and you'll have a minute 30 seconds to answer each one of these. And again, I will go in order. So the first question is about city finances. So as a councilor, you'll be asked to vote on the city's budget. And for 2 years, we have seen what the mayor calls a structural gap between revenue and expenses. So what solutions to the budget gaps do you think the city needs to consider? We're going to start with Laura Sanchez Parkinson.
Thank you. I first want to just say thank you to our mayor and our city councilors for just taking on straightforward the challenges that we faced in the last few years. We are not the only city across the country that is facing budget gaps, and to be able to really be innovative and think about solutions, particularly post-pandemic, I think is a real challenge. So with the time that I have to answer the question, I want to really focus on two things. And I want to answer this question thinking about the ways that one solution may really also impact other areas and other issues. So for example, house affordability. That is impacting our entire city, and the way that we can think both about revenue generating for our own city is also the same way that we can think about affordable housing. So one example is really continuing to think about tax fairness and the ways that we can think equitably about how taxes are distributed and how taxes are collected across homeowners. I truly believe that we need to be thoughtful and have honest conversations about increasing taxes for homeowners and landlords does not mean that increases rent. And I think that those are honest conversations that we need to have as a society in terms of who has more and who has less, and the ways that we can be thinking equitably across our economic system. And so in terms of really thinking about solutions is being creative and thinking equitably about how we think about those solutions.
Okay, thank you. Sarah Carpenter, same question about city finances.
Sure. This is a complicated question, and I think it really revolves on us stepping back and looking, what's our core mission? What do we want to do? And if you look at, there's finances and there's taxes. About almost 70% of our taxes come through the school department. We don't control that. Of our remaining 30%, so to speak, what do we control? Where do we cut? And you narrow it down to our general fund. And our general fund funds police and fire, which are essential services and growing. And then some of our other services like arts and parks. So we're going to have to make some tough decisions. And the city is going to need to look at, are there other partners that can carry on some of these missions? We may not be able to carry these missions. and including some of the public safety issues. Burlington carries a lot. We need help from the state and the region. We have the largest burden of some of the public safety issues, and we can't pare them back at the minute, but we need help because that is essential. Can our regional partners in the state help us?
Okay, thank you. Ben Travers.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Obviously, as we look over the course of the next couple months here, one of the most important questions that the council and the mayor will be considering. You know, when I hear the term structural gap, it's not really a term that I use. I view the year-to-year growth in our budget as more natural growth that I agree with what Laura said. Really, every community around the country, every business around the country, the state government, the federal government is dealing with if you have a healthy community in terms of cost of living going up year to year, the cost of wages going up year to year, the cost of benefits going up from year to year. The problem is that the percentage growth year to year is being based off of a budget that's just, frankly, from my perspective, is too large at the moment. It is too large for a city of our size. You know, during the pandemic, people turned to their local government more than perhaps at any time in our city's history. And I agree with the growth of the city at that point in time. But we're now in the undesirable place of having to right-size in a post-pandemic world. And so I think first and foremost what we need to do to address our city finances is we need to find some really significant and meaningful cuts. And I don't agree the cuts that are being proposed so far are enough. I think the cuts that the mayor is proposing at the moment are unfortunately going to put us in this exact same position next year. We also need to address revenues. I think the way to address revenue is not through property tax increases, but by promoting additional housing development, growing our grand list, and supporting our business community, such that gross receipts taxes support our budget as well.
Thank you. Becca Brown McKnight.
Great, thank you for this question. And Ben, you ran out of time there, so I'm going to pick right up where you left off. So really appreciate being here with Councilors Carpenter and President Travers, who both do the very hard work of serving on our Board of Finance, and I learned so much about the budget from both of them, so thank you. I agree that the budget is too large as it stands right now. We really haven't dug in to do the hard work of addressing the structural gaps yet. We haven't seen that yet in this administration, and I hope that we really start having those conversations this year. And then in terms of how we can make Burlington more affordable for everyone, you know, taxes are already too high, and I would really like to focus on raising revenue in a way that makes our whole economy begin to thrive. And so as Council President Travers was just saying, we do that by growing our grand list. And what that means in plain English is we add more units of housing to our housing stock. We get more people to move to Burlington and to live here and to contribute, and that grows our tax base. The second thing we can do is to promote a thriving local economy. We're so lucky here in Burlington to have an exciting community of small business owners, and they've been struggling lately. And it really doesn't have to be that way. We can enact policies and bring together partnerships that can help our local business economy thrive, and then we will all reap those rewards together. So that's the work that I would like to stay focused on.
Thank you, all four of you, for that question about city finances. We're going to talk about money a lot tonight. Let's shift to the school budget. So while you said, Sarah, that the municipal budget is about, the taxpayer bill is about 70% school budget, about 30% municipal. So the Burlington School District administrators have proposed an over $140 million school budget, representing a 4.47% increase from last year's budget. Do you support the school district budget, and why or why not? And we're going to start with Sarah Carpenter.
I do support it. I think the superintendent and the current commission has done the hard work. However, I want to point out that, and this gets wonky quick, the school department is a separate jurisdiction. We have little or no authority to change their budget. So it's not the city council can do that. Complicated in that is the approval through the state funding process. And that really influences the whole decision-making process. You know, we could tweak at the margins, and we could tell our school commissioners, take this out and take that. And I encourage citizens to do that. We, in fact, have a hard time getting people to run for school commission. So I am okay with the current budget, but it needs to be a better process because it's so influenced by the state funding formula over which we have no control.
Okay, thank you. Ben Travers.
Yeah, well, I appreciate what Sarah mentioned there in terms of the sort of local civics lesson about the separation between the city council and the school district. Of course, the city council doesn't have much to say with respect to what the school budget is, but I do very much appreciate and echo what Councilor Carpenter said there with respect to gratitude to our superintendent and to our school board for the hard work that they put into this year's budget. Personally, in casting my own vote on the budget, I'll be voting yes. And frankly, wish that the budget we were proposing was closer to the 4.5% that the school district is putting out there. You know, if voters approve of the 5-cent public safety tax increase that the administration has suggested here, our municipal tax could go up close to 10%. I, again, wish it was closer to the 4.5% that the school district has put forward, because that's more in alignment with the kind of natural growth that you would expect out of inflation and benefit increases sort of in the normal course of doing business.
Thank you. Becca Brown McKnight, what are your thoughts about the school budget?
Thank you very much. So I also personally will be voting yes on the school budget, and I encourage voters as well to vote yes. It's really important to invest in our kids and the people who teach them, and our school system offers so much value to our entire community, and I'm personally very grateful for that. If there's any teachers watching, thank you for the very hard work that you do. As a mom of 2 kids, I see that hard work day in and day out. I'm really looking to the State House, and Elaine, we may be talking about this more later, to do some more hard work and to work with our governor to improve the education system and to make the system more affordable. So that's where I'll be using my voice to advocate for just a better setup that serves Burlington in a more favorable way. And I will echo Ben's comments. You know, we have seen year after year the school board comes and does a presentation at the city council, although it's not something we vote on, but we do get kind of an inside look to how they've been approaching things. And I think that the discipline, the hard work, and the tough decisions that they've shown over the past few years, and the ability to do a lot with a little in a very innovative way, is something I want to see more of at the city level. And I think that as counselors, we can all learn a lot from the hard work of our school commissioners.
Thank you. And Laura Sanchez Parkinson.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to just build on what folks have said here in terms of, I just have the utmost respect for our educators, for administrators and staff across our public schools, and the work that they've been doing over the last year to put this budget together. Town Meeting TV actually did a really great segment of an overview of the budget for anyone who would be interested to get more of the details. I'm going to focus on a note that hasn't been mentioned in terms of one challenge that Burlington and many other schools in Vermont are experiencing, which is a decrease in enrollment. And that is really then impacting the way that then budgets are developed, because staffing is being cut, how we think about services within our schools. And so I think that you'll begin to see a theme that I think very much about how issues are interconnected, and the way that we think about housing. Becca mentioned earlier, like, we want to increase housing. I am all in for that. Like, how do we increase housing so that more families can live and work and go to school here? We don't need to see more and more families going out of Burlington because they can't afford, which then impacts our schools and their enrollment, and ultimately how we think about our budget. I'm very excited about what the investment has been done in terms of the Burlington High School, and the way that that's really going to continue to support our students. As a parent, I also think about the ways that we can continue to invest in our schools to increase the services and the education that we already have in our city.
Thank you all. So we're going to switch now to the ballot. There's a number of ballot initiatives for voters to consider. And what is your position on the items that voters will see on the ballot in March, specifically the charter change item for the formation of the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Office, or the REIB, and the proposal for a 5-cent police and fire tax to support the public safety budget? So let's start with Ben Travers on that one.
Yeah, thanks, Elaine. First of all, I strongly support the charter change enshrining our Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Office in our charter. I had the privilege before serving as council president of serving on our REIB committee on the council. I've seen firsthand the critical work that our REIB staff has done, not just internally at our city level, but externally across our entire community. And not just with respect to racial equity, but really ensuring that everyone in Burlington feels like this is an inclusive and belonging community. They've done great work. It deserves to be treated just like any other department that's enshrined in our charter, and I look forward to supporting it. I think we'll talk about this more, and it's difficult to get into the limited time we have, but with respect to the 5-cent public safety tax increase, I will not be voting in favor of that. At the moment, the mayor has indicated that we have a $10 to $12 million budget gap. If this were approved by voters, it only generates $3 million. I don't think it addresses the real underlying structural issues that we have in our budget. I think that we need to do harder, yes, more difficult work to address those issues, and I don't think that the 5-cent public safety tax increase is the way to address it. I should say that we are fully committed to our police and fire departments. We've made contractual commitments to our police officers and fire department, and I want to make sure that voters know that if this tax is voted down, it's not as if we're going to have to take monies away from our police and fire departments. We will meet those commitments. We will have to find difficult, needed cuts in other parts of the budget.
Thank you. Becca Brown McKnight, same question.
Great. So I will start with the REIB charter change. I'm a 100% yes on that. I was going to say something else, but we're on live TV. So serving on the REIB committee has been one of my favorite parts in serving on the council. The work that department does and the value that it provides to the community it's just so far-reaching. I was on my committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we heard testimony from folks, people of color all over Burlington, who were telling us about the struggles they've been having with ICE in our community, and how they've either had friends or family members be profiled themselves, how they have family members struggling to get back into the country. And for me, it was just a real awakening to hear how close to home those challenges at the national level are already hitting. And it's such a valuable space for myself as a policymaker to learn from our community, and I really value that. And I always think, you know, when if we all really want to be thriving, then every single one of us here in Burlington needs to be thriving. So I like to say, if you are a person who maybe doesn't recognize yourself in the work of REIB, maybe you look like me and you think it might not be relevant to you, I will say it's very relevant to every single one of us here in Burlington. So I will be supporting that. And I will just double down on what Ben said about the police and fire tax. I'm going to be a no vote on that. We need to do more hard work to improve affordability in Burlington, and I'm not going to raise any more taxes until we do that.
Laura Sanchez Parkinson.
Thank you. I'll start with the police and fire tax, just because briefly I am a support and thinking about how we think about, again, going back to my initial answer around taxes. I really think that there is a way that we can think about the stratification that we have within our city of who has and who has not, and the way that that taxes are set up is to be able to contribute as a society towards our social services, which is the police and fire department. In terms of the racial equity and inclusion and for belonging a charter, I first want to say thank you to all of you for voting yes to move that forward. I was extremely excited when that moved forward. But I want to spend my time thinking briefly, especially for those who are viewing, about the challenges that this office has experienced, because I think as voters are going to the ballot, they're going to be thinking about what is the history that we've had as a city in terms of this office. And what I want to challenge our viewers to think about is to not get caught up in the drama that has happened and occurred, especially what's been covered in the media, and to go back to what Becca said. There has been things that have been happening within our city. The office, the ways that it's supported communities of color, and other communities that needed our support, and for us to think about the ways that we can think forward. I think that being able to institutionalize this office and think about the ways that we can think of it sustainably is the right way to think about actual equity and inclusion within our city.
Thank you. Sarah Carpenter.
Thank you. I will echo some of what folks said, but I'm going to disagree on the 5-cent taxing thing. And I think it's important to remember that we have this sort of backwards budgeting system. We have to decide at town meeting day if or not we're going to raise local property tax. We don't know what the budget's going to be yet. We won't know till April or May. We don't have to use that 5 cents if we don't need it. And in fact, we've done that in the past. We've raised the revenue and not called it all down. And I think given the stresses we're under, I would hate to see us in June being 1 cent short and no way to raise that revenue. We've got to approve it now. It comes in the bailiwick of our police and fire because they're 40% of our budget, general fund budget, which is what this covers. And we want to keep them whole, and I think we need to make that decision now and then fight through the budget process. How much are we going to pare away, cut down, give up, and that will be the work we've got. We have not yet done that work, and we need to make a revenue commitment now. In terms of REIB, I've again been totally supportive of that. One thing that excites me is the interest in making it be broader. It's the racial equity, inclusion, and belonging, and that covers a lot of folks, and I'm looking forward to the broadening of the office.
Okay. Thank you all.
Yeah.
So the next question is going to be about another item that's on the ballot, or is not on the ballot. So the City Council voted not to include the tax fairness advisory question on this March ballot. This is a question developed in a committee put together by the mayor to address who shoulders tax burdens in the city. What is your thinking on this and other advisory questions that have been prevented from moving forward to a citywide vote by the council? We'll start with Becca Brown McKnight.
Sure. So I was not supportive of the tax abatement ballot advisory question, and there are a lot of reasons for that. First of all, I was not a fan of the process. The mayor convened a special group, and it met in private. It did not have representation evenly from different stakeholder groups from all across the city, and that's where the idea came from in the first place. The concept was that it's a little complicated to explain tax policy in 90 seconds, but it would have given a homestead tax exemption on homes of a certain value, and it would have increased the tax burden on homes of a higher value, and then it also would have increased the tax burden on commercial and rented properties. So essentially, it was giving a little bit to one section of the community and potentially hurting a lot another section of the community, which would have been renters and small businesses. And so, you know, I might have been able to support the tax abatement piece if it had been delivered in a package where renters were offered some protections and the small business community was shored up in some way. That's not how it was presented to the community. I thought it was a bad idea and it didn't belong to be on the ballot, so that's why I voted no. And I want to see ballot questions that have more of a three-dimensional view and consider how every single resident is impacted, especially renters.
Thank you. Laura Sanchez Parkinson.
So I thought of this question, one, in terms of how I reacted to not only the tax ballot question, but also the apartheid-free community pledge ballot question as well. And I first reacted as just a resident, right? A resident of Burlington. These two items not moving forward. As someone who is an educator and truly believes I'm a trained facilitator for dialogue, it really made me think about how we are not creating spaces for our own community to have these conversations. Town meeting is actually, as I know, all of you know, it's one of the most beautiful things that there is in here in Vermont in terms of coming together on an annual basis as a community, not only to vote, yet I go fill out the form, but also to really be in community and talk about the issues that we care about at least once a year. At the Sustainability Academy, which is where Ward 3 residents would vote, we have a bake sale. It's an opportunity for people to hang out and discuss these types of issues. And so I think when it comes to advisory questions, to me, it's an opportunity to really engage our community. And I would say that, connecting it back to the previous questions of the REIB, how is our community equipped to have these dialogues, to have these discussions about conversations that, like tax fairness, that can be difficult to have and that may take time to have those discussions.
Thank you. Sarah Carpenter.
Several different thoughts. To me, first, advisory questions should advise us how to govern. So I think we really look at questions that do that. The apartheid-free community is a broad philosophical point of view. It needs discussion, but it's not advising me how to govern. And I don't think a binary yes or no on that question is the way to get the dialogue. We need dialogue, but not a yay or a nay there. I will say that the other question moves much closer to advising us how to govern, but the question was phrased as a sort of already packaged proposal and didn't really, for instance, it might have said something like, do you support moving burden of taxes from single-family homeowners to apartment owners and commercial? That might have been a governing advisory. It was actually asking us to take more time on a specific proposal. I am actually okay with spending more time on that specific proposal because I don't believe enough time was spent on it, as well as additional proposals. And I think we have plenty of time to look at, is there a tax proposal that is fairer? And, you know, I'm not convinced this was a fairer one to give me a $150 decrease and Northgate apartment a $7,000 increase.
Okay, thank you. And Ben Travers, same question.
Yeah, thank you for this question. First, with respect to the Israel-Palestine conflict, this has been a contentious debate in our community, communities around the country, communities around the world. And as we considered the anti-Israel ballot measure for the third year in a row, I had many people with all sorts of different viewpoints reaching out to me to express real concern for their safety and the safety of their community, about engaging in a public debate on this question, and about even going to cast a ballot on this question on town meeting day. And there's nothing democratic about putting a question onto the ballot that leaves someone fearful about actually showing up on town meeting day to participate in that process. So, and I think they were justified in unfortunately having that fear because of some personal experiences that I've had that I don't want to relitigate here, but I was proud to be able to not have that item on the ballot again. With respect to the so-called tax fairness advisory question, this was a well-intentioned but not well-thought-out idea. To Councilor McKnight's point, if you can't talk about tax policy in 90 seconds, you certainly can't talk about it in one paragraph on a ballot question. That said, if that policy went into effect as it was, it would have transferred $170 million in property value off of residential properties and onto non-homestead properties, which, as Becca mentioned, are apartments and small businesses. I don't need a $30,000 exemption on my property. My across-the-street neighbor, who's a senior on a fixed income, could need that and more. I'd like to approach this through a more equitable lens.
Thank you. Okay, excellent. We're going to jump off the ballot for a little bit. What are your top priorities in seeking to serve on the City Council? And we will start with Laura Sanchez-Parkinson.
Good. I will talk about two of them, just given the time, and I will sort of piggyback off the conversation around rent and housing. I think that that is something that I am particularly extremely passionate and committed about in terms of how do we continue to create a city that not only those who've had wealth for generations can come and buy homes here, but really how can we support those newcomers who are looking to build their families in a new space. And so I'm really thinking about how do we create diversity in housing and affordability across the board. The other one that I want to spend the rest of my time is in community safety and housing. I think, Ben, you've mentioned in terms of how folks may feel when they go to the ballot in terms of their safety. And I very much think about the safety and well-being of our community. I think it's very important for everyone in our community to feel comfortable, not only definitely when you're going up to vote, but to walk around our city. I think I also want to ensure that when we think about community and safety, that we don't get caught up in the bias of who is safe and who is not, and who is bringing unsafety into our community and who is not. And that often comes with bias. It often is that Black and brown folks are seen as more dangerous than others, or making me feel more unsafe than others. And so I really want to continue to think about how do we learn about what we've experienced since 2020 and then bring that towards as our current experiences that we're going, whether it's Palestine and Israel, as well as ICE and immigration issues.
Thank you. We're going to pause. We have a caller. Hello, caller. Could you please share your name and where you're calling from and your question?
Hello, my name is Claire. This night I live in Burlington.
Did you catch that?
Can you say that again, Claire?
Hello, my name is Claire McKnight. I live in Burlington, Vermont. I want to know what the council is planning to do for the kids in Burlington.
Okay. Thank you, Claire. We're going to hang up and we'll answer that question. Thanks for calling. Okay. Well, we're going to keep going in order. Sarah, what are you going to do for the kids of Burlington?
My goodness. Well, I think we need to examine all of the programs we have and figure out how to be very efficient and smart with this. Extra kids programs are something that we're going to have to perhaps figure out how to better partner. We have fabulous programs, but we're going to have to look very carefully at that. And I hope we can do that. Kids are the lifeblood of our communities, but we've got lots of folks, including seniors, who need programs. And so how do we share that wealth and work with partners maybe outside the city of Burlington to bring in more vibrant programs to the city?
Okay, thank you. Ben Travers?
Well, that voice sounded a little familiar. Claire McKnight. Thank you for calling in, Claire, and for participating. You know, Burlington is such an amazing place. My kids are privileged to go to a program like Crow's Path with Becca's kids. I mean, where else in the country can your kids take a day out of their elementary school and spend a day in the forest learning about everything that Vermont has to offer? But we have a lot to do here in Burlington to ensure that it's really a wonderful city for our young people. It's the reason why I stepped up originally to serve. I joined our Parks Commission right around the time of the birth of our daughter. And we spend so much time in our parks, and to Councilor Carpenter's point here, we have a lot of work to do to continue to support our great Parks Department and the rec programs. I have some concern that our recreational programs with our last budgeting cycle took a step back, and we need to take another big step forward, I think, to get those programs back up to where they should be, both for our youth as well as for older folks in our community, which Councilor Carpenter has really championed on our city council. And I think not just about my 10-year-old, 8-year-old, and 4-year-old, but I also think about our 18-year-olds who are making decisions about where they want to live and start their own careers and eventually families. And I have some serious concerns right now about folks being able to afford to stay in. At the moment, I'd love if my kids stayed local here in Burlington, but I have some concerns about whether or not they'd be able to afford a place to live here, and we have some work to do on that front.
All right, Mom.
Yeah. So first I need to do a proper disclosure. Claire McKnight is my daughter, and I did encourage her to participate in her local government and make a call tonight. I thought it might be a slow night for callers, so thank you to my colleagues for indulging that. But I do have an answer to that question. That's a real answer. And it's based on some personal experiences I've had while I've been on the council. An issue I hear about from kids a lot is, what is the city doing to clean up graffiti all around the city? A lot of kids don't like seeing graffiti, where it's not supposed to be. And I've had the pleasure of working, I think, collaborating on or providing funding on or showing up to paint for a day with my own family on about 5 or 6 different graffiti cleanup projects around the city. A lot of those projects have engaged in our youth and the teens and the high schoolers in Burlington, and gives them that real sense of pride in cleaning up their community and also creating some incredible art in the process. And it's a chance to come together and gather in a positive way and leave a lasting impact. You see that at the Mission Murals project, which is right across the street from Edmonds, where the whole community came together and spent some time painting the squares there. So that's the kind of thing I'm excited about doing for our kids and helping imbue them with a sense of pride and community and a sense of love of the place that they live in. So thanks, honey. Go to bed.
Thank you. Laura Sanchez Parkinson, what will you do for the kids of Burlington?
I love that question so much. And actually part of my tagline is everyone in Burlington deserves to have fun. And I really mean that because I'm definitely thinking about my own children, our children who often do activities together. But I'm actually running for city council, not just for my children, but for every child in our neighborhood, especially those children who are experiencing the most stressful situations right now. I started to mention around ICE and immigration and deportations in this moment. We have children, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, who have extreme stress and depression right now. I'm running for city council to really think about them. What kind of city do we want to provide so that they can have well-being and feel welcome in our city? We have kids in Old North End, blocks away from the lake, who've never been to the lake. I want to make sure that everyone in our community knows about our services, knows about our beautiful city, and is able to fully embrace the beautiful city that we have, and that everyone, including all of the children, can have fun.
Okay, thank you all. So let's get back to the priorities question that we started with. And so Sarah Carpenter, what are your top priorities in seeking to serve on City Council?
Well, I had said earlier in my opening remarks, what I hope I bring to the table is insight on management and really efficiency. We've just got to figure out how to run this city a little bit tighter. And I hope I can help in that. Some of the things we're talking about, for example, we'll get down to it when we talk about housing, but we got to get out of our own way. If we want to build housing, we need to facilitate it. We can't regulate it all the time. We need to facilitate it. And I think we need to look inward to say, what can we do as a city to make it better? How do we make our city easier for people to access? There's a lot of impediments in some of our programs. Well-meaning, not intended, but the left hand doesn't know the right hand. And so I really would like to focus some of my energy on that. In addition to housing, which I have spent a lot of time on, I want us to be a facilitator. We'll not be a builder, we need to be the facilitator. And we need to take that very seriously and make some, again, decisions that people may not like, but it's a brave new world. I wish many of you, and you can probably get it on CCTV, were at the Treasurer's discussion on financing the Hulu project down on the South End Innovation District, excuse me. And we'll have to look at things like that and think big about housing.
Thank you. Council President Ben Travers.
Yeah, thank you for this question. So first of all, one answer, and perhaps a primary answer here, that I'll give now, but never would have given back in 2022 when I first ran. But unfortunately, here we are, as I think we have a lot of work to do to ensure that Burlington remains a resilient community in the face of federal overreach and in the face of so much turbulence that's happening outside of our city and outside of our state. And that's not just, but certainly includes ICE actions and enforcement, but also the federal government walking back funding that's been so important to our community, the federal government cutting positions that have been so important to so many individuals in our community. We need to ensure Burlington's resilience in the face of so much turbulence at the federal level. Beyond that, just 2 items to mention here. I want to piggyback off of what Councilor Carpenter said here with respect to housing. We've done some great work to open up our zoning code to housing development, which is why we were able to have this great event this morning with respect to work in the South End Innovation District. But there's still a number of hurdles in the way. And on the City Council, we passed the BUILD resolution. It's Burlington Unlocking Infill and Livable Development, which I agree. Thank you, ChatGPT. That acronym leads to really important work here for us to cut through barriers and really red tape to unlock housing development. And I'll just say on public safety, we've done some great work to support our police department, but we're still struggling with recruitment and retention efforts, particularly with respect to recruitment, and we have to find ways to unlock that.
Thank you. Becca Brown-McKnight, your priorities.
Great. Well, I've had some fun preparing for this, looking back 2 years ago at what my priorities were then, and they have evolved a little bit, but they have been pretty consistent, I will say. And so one reason I'm running again is because, that work, while we've made some progress, it's not done yet. And so my 3 priorities in this election cycle are making the city more affordable, continuing to make the city safer, and making Burlington easier to navigate in so many ways. So I'll get into as much detail as time allows for. But in terms of making Burlington more affordable, we've already talked about the budget tonight. That's a key piece and a key lever that we have to pull. It also speaks to housing. As Ben was just saying, we need the South End Innovation District is a great example of a project that will bring a lot of housing online all in one go. That project has been underway for many years. We need to start building the pipeline of projects at that scale. We haven't seen much movement in the past 2 years on that, and I want to see more of that. And also in terms of affordability, back to my earlier points about building the city into a thriving economy where government works hand in hand with small business to really create a situation where a rising tide lifts all boats. In terms of safety, again, we've seen some great progress in the leadership of our police and fire departments, but we still need to do a lot of that recruiting, and I think a lot of people are still not feeling as safe as they would like to be in the public spaces. And in terms of Burlington being easier to navigate, it should just, whether you bike, you walk, or you drive a car, it should feel easy to get from one place to another when you're getting around the city, and that's my goal.
Thank you. Let's go more deeply into one of the goals that most of you mentioned, public safety. So the governor took action this year to be more involved in Burlington's policing and public safety affairs. So do you support the action the governor took or not? And we're going to start with Sarah Carpenter.
I absolutely support it and think he should be doing more. We are a tiny city in a tiny state, and it has been incredibly frustrating to me for years that we don't have more of a regional approach. And that is something the governor could lead. I know some of our suburban communities are working hard, but we need a regional approach on drug addiction, on mental health, and he's got to lead that effort. And that's part of our public safety problem. We have nobody. Burlington sort of gets the brunt, the burden, but we can't make a mental health system happen in Chittenden County or all the counties. We can't make a drug addiction program. We tremendously need places to send folks, supportive housing, treatment beds. We are so minus those. That's an effort that the state should and could lead. And I guess I'm just plain frustrated. I appreciate the governor's work on the public safety, and that was certainly very helpful, and I hope we can continue that dialogue, because it is a regional approach. It's not just Burlington versus everybody else or versus the state. We've got to look at it. And again, given our size, we need to have a much closer relationship with the state and the region.
Thank you. Ben Travers.
Well, first, I completely agree with Councilor Carpenter with respect to the regional approach to many of the public safety issues that we have here, with respect to recovery efforts, drug recovery efforts, mental health challenges, homelessness. These are all a part of the public safety picture. And again, I completely agree with Councilor Carpenter. These are not challenges that Burlington can handle on their own. We do need the state support, and we need the support of surrounding communities in our region as well to be able to take them head on. With respect to the specific question on the governor's efforts here in Burlington, yes, strongly supportive of them. Was really privileged to be able to work with the mayor in meetings with the governor and his office regarding the initiatives that were taken on here. I think two of them in particular have been very important. One is the presence of Vermont State Police officers downtown. I can't tell you how many residents, visitors, businesses we've heard from that really were thrilled to see the additional presence of public safety personnel downtown. And the other piece is and I don't know what we're calling it now, but the term accountability court or the accountability docket is what resonated with folks. This has been an effort to address the issue of the fact that we have folks that have delayed justice for wrongs they've done to our community. We have a backlog with respect to folks moving through the system, and that justice delayed is justice denied, as some of the folks on the council I serve with. Councilor Bergman's not here tonight. He says that all the time, and it's true in this case. So I would really support, particularly there, finding a way to continue it.
Thank you. Becca Brown-McKnight.
Great. Yes, this is a great question. And so I was strongly in support of the governor's help and plan that he created for Burlington. I played a small part in that in doing some outreach to the governor's office, because one thing I noticed in those conversations, what the governor's office needs to hear is that Burlington really wants his help, and that we are open to his help, and we are open to trying new things. And communicating that with the governor's team loud and clear was really an important unlock into helping them understand that we could have a good collaborative process together. And I think we did. And I think most of those initiatives are wrapping up or already have. And my message to the governor is, okay, great, thank you. What's next? All right, we're ready to tackle even more together. We're excited to continue our, tripartisan collaboration. Interestingly, I think this is maybe one of the only places in the entire country where you have, a very liberal city and a Republican governor, and they all came together to work and to make progress on behalf of their residents. We were able to put our political differences aside and focus it on results. And that is something I think we could be a leader for the whole country on, and I certainly want to see more of that. And just to clarify on what Sarah and Ben were saying, the state of Vermont has a Department of Health and Human Services that can do things around substance abuse, mental health, and the homelessness crisis. The city of Burlington does not. So that's a really key area of partnership together with the state.
Thank you. And Laura Sanchez-Parkinson.
Thank you. I think the nice thing about going last is that I can just kind of build on what everyone has said, which is that I think, like everyone else, it is great to get additional support and resources. And so I am glad to see the ways that the governor has been partnering with our city and providing those resources. I think what I would add is thinking about, Becca, you just mentioned in terms of the triad way of thinking in terms of a progressive city and a Republican governor. I would be careful to think about what that partnership looks like. The way that we bring in resources is not all resources are the same as the way that we operate within our city. And so how do we partner? How do we accept resources? And how do we engage in a way that also fits into what our city needs? And so just very quickly, I'll mention, yes, I love that there's additional safety within, particularly in Church Marketplace. But I think very much about how is that impacting the engagement of our own community, going and shopping and engaging in that street. And so I want to be careful in how we think about additional resources coming into our city in a way that also feel reflective of our culture and our values.
Okay, thank you. So another deep dive into a specific topic, housing. Earlier this month, Mayor Emma Mulvaney-Stanek announced the launch of Burlington's 2026 housing strategy. The plan aims to put Burlington on a path towards creating 7,000 housing units by 2050. How do you respond to this strategy? And let's start with you, Ben Travers.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I think all of us on the council and the mayor share the same goal with respect to our needing to increase housing development, and by a lot. We need tens of thousands of additional units across the state. Burlington, as Vermont's largest city, has a big part to play in all that. In the question you asked there, though, you used the word plan. I have yet to see a plan from the mayor's administration. I've seen a press release and I've seen some talking points, but I've yet to see a plan with specifics. So I'll be looking forward on the council to see a specific plan to back up the talking points, which sound good, but we'll need to see some additional work put into it. In terms of where I think we need to be focusing, we mentioned it before on the City Council. We passed this build resolution asking the administration to take a look at how we can remove some of the barriers to housing development. We have this great neighborhood code that allows for lots of infill and livable development across the city, but we need to truly unlock it by addressing some of the hurdles and barriers to folks being able to access it. So we have a lot of additional work to do on that end. I think we need to work with partners like Councilor Carpenter and I earlier today. We're down in the South End Innovation District with the Hula and Ride Your Bike teams, as well as the state treasurer, who are ready to build thousands of additional housing units. I will tell you one thing, though, Elaine. What I don't think was a good idea in terms of housing development was putting this tax fairness question out there, because it was a flag to those we need to partner with in housing development that our intention is to raise their taxes by a few percentage points.
Okay. Thank you. Becca Brown McKnight, same question.
Great, thank you. This is a really important topic, so I'm glad we have some time to dive into it tonight. So in terms of the mayor's plan, which I only am aware of because of the press conference that she held, great goal, 7,000 housing units by 2050. Very short on details, and so far very short on action. I believe that the mayor laid out housing as her #1 goal for the entire second year of her administration, and that year is almost over. And as Councilor Travers said, we don't have the details to back up how we're going to get to 7,000 units. In terms of every major project that is happening, so you think of City Place and the South End Innovation District and Cambrian Rise, where we see hundreds of new units coming online, every single one of those projects was developed under the prior administration. So we're really missing that link of putting together the partners and the resources to come up with the thousands of units that are missing. I also would really love to see us unlock the neighborhood code, which gives smaller homeowners and other folks the ability to renovate their homes and add units on a case-by-case basis. We have not seen the investment in communications and resources to bring that project to light that we need to be seeing. So I hope there is more coming on that, and I hope that all the council will be at the table for those discussions.
Thank you. Laura Sanchez Parkinson.
Yeah. I think it's been a theme in terms of housing, in terms of we need more housing. And I'm very excited to think about the way that we can move forward, the way that we can be creative, the way that we need to rethink how we think about housing. Housing is going to look different. Raising our kids, it's no longer going to be in a one-story home with a yard in Burlington. That cannot happen in order to create a welcoming space for everyone that is going to live in our city. And so as we think about moving forward with creating housing units, I'm excited to be creative, to think creatively about the ways that we can expand our vision and and change the way in our culture of thinking as a society of what housing looks like. Because we're almost out of time, this is my first chance sitting with all of you all here, and I am new to the table, and hopefully will be new as I come in. And I am looking forward to be thinking about not only, I'll just keep it honest, not only dishing each other in terms of the mayor or the progressives or the Democrats, but I'm really looking forward. I think that there are great ideas at the table. I think that we can continue to think about how we collaborate together, how we bring those experiences that each of us bring, and be able to come with solutions so that our city can be better.
Thank you. We have time for Sarah Carpenter to give a response to that question, and then we're going to move into closing statements. Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay. You know, the ideas that the mayor brought forward make some sense, but we do need details. And part of it, again, and I said it earlier, we're going to have to dig deep to figure out the impediments. We're going to have to change our ways. And everything was always done with good intent, but we pile on. So that's a huge amount of work, and we need to invite in the people that affects, the tradespeoples, the builders, the contractors. We need to say to them, what are we doing that causes a problem and ups the cost? And so I just encourage us to do this. Part of housing development is the availability of spaces and land. And we've got to dig deep. What do we own? What does the school department own? Oh my God, we can't build on the school? Yes, we can. And so I think looking at where can we build? We have a neighborhood code. We might own a perfectly little tiny lot with 5 units. Well, 5 units is better than no units. And so we've really got to look under all the rocks. And that's going to be, I think, the hard work that we've got to do simultaneously to understanding where do we get subsidy. Affordability doesn't come out of the blue sky. And so we've got to be on top of that and the impacts the federal government will have on that.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have time now for a 30-second closing statement from each one of you for being on the ballot this year. So let's start with Becca Brown-McKnight.
Great. Well, I am so thrilled to have the opportunity to continue serving Ward 6 in my second term. And my message to voters in terms of a closing statement is really to invite you and encourage you to participate in our democratic process as we head towards town meeting day. Vermont has a storied tradition of residents getting involved and learning all about the issues on town meeting day. I hope this is no different. I hope to be hearing from lots of you. I hope to go out to coffee with anyone who gets in touch and wants to hear more about all these thorny issues and all the amazing opportunities that are ahead for our city. Thank you.
Laura Sanchez-Perkinson.
I am just extremely excited to be representing Ward 3, a place where I deeply love and I am feel so privileged to be raising my family. I hope to be able to represent our community. I hope that I'm able to represent our voters and come out March 3rd if you're in Ward 3, Sustainability Academy. But I also want to open up the door for conversations for my colleagues here at the table. And I hope that you can truly be able to get to know me and we can be able to collaborate in the future.
Thank you. Sarah Carpenter.
Thank you, and thank you, Laura. I really look forward to continued collaboration. I think that's a style I can bring behind the scenes. I've been on the council 6 years, and I'll be going into my 7th, I hope. And I want to continue that work. We can do better. We have to do better. And I want to try to do what I've started and be a sounding board and a person of reason to get work done that needs getting done.
Thank you. And Council President Travers.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine, and thanks again to Town Meeting TV for this great discussion. It was great to be with you, Becca, Laura, and Sarah. I'm very much looking forward to our working together. You know, we all, whether you're a Democrat or progressive, within the Democratic Party, with the Progressive Party or the mayor, we have our differences. But we all believe in a better Burlington. I believe in a better Burlington. I believe Burlington's best days remain ahead of us. We have work to do to ensure that we remain a resilient community, a community of more housing, a community that's inclusive and welcoming to all, a safer community, a more welcoming and vibrant downtown. I'm looking forward to continuing that work.
Thank you all so much for taking the time to be on our candidate forum today. And thank you for tuning in to Town Meeting TV's ongoing coverage of local candidates, budgets, and ballot items. You can find this and many more forums at cctv.org/TMD2026 or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel. And don't forget to cast your ballot on Town Meeting Day on or before March 3rd. And tune into Town Meeting TV's Results Recap show that evening starting live at 7 p.m. Contact your local clerk to find out how to obtain a ballot and to register to vote. In Vermont, you can register to vote on Election Day. Thank you for watching and for sharing Town Meeting TV.